Hello, today I would like to talk about how to stay composed when you're in a conversation that's making you really uncomfortable. Okay, the first thing you want to do is when you feel like that sensation of, oh my goodness, I really don't feel comfortable here, you need to breathe. So the first thing is breathe. Center yourself, collect your thoughts, breathe through the nose, down to your abdomen, and then let it out. Try to get yourself to calm down. You want to do that for a lot of different reasons. One, because if you're feeling anxious or uncomfortable, you may not process all the information that's happening around you as effectively as possible. You may not be able to communicate then afterwards as effectively as possible. And it may give you some time to figure out how you're going to navigate this conversation. So you take a pause, take a breath, and try to calm yourself. The second thing is to really be aware of your triggers. So there are certain things that make conversations uncomfortable. Either it could be a subject matter that is just always going to be uncomfortable. Confrontation, talking about religion or politics or money or things of intimacy nature, things like that. So there are certain things that make people uncomfortable, and that's fine. But then there are other things, there's like triggers, which, I mean, this is kind of a trigger, but other triggers like certain word choice, or maybe you have a history with certain conversations, or you have a history with experiencing certain things that for most people would not necessarily be inappropriate or uncomfortable conversations, but for you it is. And so being aware of that, you know that when these conversations come up, you always feel this way. And so because you know how you feel and how you normally react, you can either learn to adapt and react in a, maybe you don't want to engage in the conversation, but you can react in a constructive way, or you can get kind of overpowered by your emotions. So realizing what those triggers are really important, so then you can then act appropriately, or you can react rather in a constructive way. Okay, another thing that you can do is visualization. So you can use visualization as a tool to get yourself in the right mindset to either resolve this very awkward conversation. So say it's a confrontation. So how can you constructively and positively resolve or remove yourself from, or whatever it is you need to do to get yourself out of or finish this conversation. It also can kind of get you in a positive mindset to be like, I can handle this, I can be calm through this, I can be collected through this, I can be elegant through this. So visualization is really important. You do that by literally visualizing a positive result from this very awkward and uncomfortable conversation. So you think, I see myself being successful, I see myself, finishing this conversation, and it's going to have a good result, and everything is going to be resolved, that kind of a thing. Another thing you can do is you can change the subject. So changing the subject, especially if you're talking about one of those really awkward conversation topics, so religion, money, interpersonal relationships, things like this, politics, and especially now we think that could be a topic that may be very sensitive, then if you want to try to change the subject, all you have to do is just listen to some words that people are using. So if they're talking about, oh, did you read about that? Or what do you think about this? And then you can say, oh, I really don't feel that comfortable talking about this. However, I did read this really interesting piece of information. Or if somebody is talking poorly about someone else and that's making you feel very uncomfortable, you can say, I really don't feel comfortable talking about this. I don't think it's fair because the person isn't here. However, I would love to talk to you about this. I would love to get your feedback on this one. Or I've used an example before, if somebody is, speaking poorly about somebody else and you don't like the conversation, you don't feel it's comfortable or appropriate, you can just say, yes, I really don't feel comfortable commenting. I don't feel comfortable engaging in this conversation, but on a related topic to whatever negative they were saying, try to turn it into a positive. So if somebody is saying something about the way that somebody is looking, like maybe they don't, she always looks like such a mess, like that kind of a thing. You can just say, you know what, I was really feeling that way about myself lately, but then I actually started reading these books about image. I was listening to this person on Instagram talking about image and how important this was and that was, and I was just missing some really key points. It's really interesting. And then hopefully that will just shift the conversation away from the original topic. And the last thing you can do, if you're in a conversation that is really uncomfortable because the person is threatening you or being abusive or yelling or in your face and you're really feeling unsafe, or you feel like there's just no way because the conversation has escalated into such a point that there's just no way you're going to be able to redirect or calm the situation down or have a effective outcome, then you can just kindly ask, I think that there's been a lot of misunderstanding here. This conversation is making me really uncomfortable. Do you think we could possibly have this conversation later? Or you say, this conversation is really making me uncomfortable. I would love to have this conversation later. I need to remove myself right now, if you'll excuse me. And just remove yourself. So there are a lot of different options. So I hope that is helpful the next time that you are in a conversation that makes you feel very uncomfortable, but you want to be able to navigate it elegantly and you want to stay composed throughout. Thank you.